Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the final portion of Huda Tonight. For the last part of the program, we're going to be talking about Islamic education and learning. Very important topic for us. We have a brother here who works with primary students. We have brother Abu Salam. Assalamu alaikum. Abu Salam. Okay. Welcome to the program. And also brother Lukman Hakim.
Yes, Lukman Hakim.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, pleasure to have you. So again, as we said, we're going to be talking about Islamic education. Brother, you actually work in education, right?
Yes, yes, I teach. By the way, first, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes.
I work in education, alhamdulillah, teaching second grade, you know.
Okay.
And it's a good experience. You need a lot of energy, man, to teach the youngsters, man.
It takes a very special man to be able to teach young people. So, yeah, thank you for your work. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, you know, it's it's challenging sometimes because you need so much energy and you have to keep the students focused.
Right.
But it's also rewarding. And, you know, it's like, you know, you're nurturing this person.
Right.
And you wish and you hope and you pray that Allah bring this person up to be a good contributor to society, a good Muslim, you know. And one of the topics that was on my mind this evening, and in my experience of teaching, is the materials that we use to teach the children. Like, alhamdulillah, I've been blessed to work in a very Islamic environment. It's a very Islamic school, you know. However, when you look not only at my school, but other schools, not all of the books, but most of the books are not from Islamic authors. Like, I teach English, you know.
Okay.
So when you think about the grammar and all the things that, you know, English includes, you find that the people who make they make very good books, but they're not catering to Islam. They're not catering to the Muslims. As a matter of fact, sometimes we find things that are counter-Islamic.
Yeah. Can you? I'm wondering if you can give us an example in the textbooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many. My latest one that I ran across, you know, it's a well-known publisher. I shouldn't say the publisher there. I don't want to make any enemies. But it's a well-known publisher.
Yes.
Okay. They've been publishing for years, and you know, just last quarter, we have these little readers, you know, reading comprehension stories, you know.
Right.
So, you know, they give me the stack of books to give to the children, these nice, colorful, beautiful books, you know. And I'm looking at the picture of the parrot, and it's very beautiful about, you know, the parrot who flies and flies home. So I'm just, I like to skim through it. The parrot, he flies from New York, and he flies home to Brazil. Unfortunately, on his way back to his forest, he runs across these Brazilian dancers. Okay, and they're dressed like, in the book they have illustration of these women dressed like Brazilian dancers.
Got it.
And the picture is, you know, they got the guys there and girls there. Totally inappropriate for second grade.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe how they would even deliberately put this together for young readers. I was astonished. Alhamdulillah, the mudir, you know what he did? He glued the page together. He said, you gotta give them the books, you know, we have our curriculum. But he got every book and he just glued these 2 pages together. And alhamdulillah, the story was still cohesive because it was a beautiful story, beautiful illustration. But they put something in there that was just appalling, actually.
Yeah, it's a very good example. I mean, these things, like you're saying, if they're not produced by people who have the sensitivities to the readers, right?
Yeah.
You know, they can be easily offended. So it's a very good example, and I've seen this kind of thing before. You know, I have a daughter, and I had to, you know, filter, you know, the content and proofread everything before I hand it to her, because you never know what you might run into.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good example. And Brother Lukman.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, we're talking about primary education and the importance for Muslims producing, even in subjects like mathematics and science and English, Islamically sensitive materials, right? It's a very important topic. I want to ask you a question about the role that pursuing excellence, pursuing knowledge that we're called to in Islam. This is moving to a different subject in education. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Okay. Alhamdulillah wahda wa salatu wa salamu ala man la nabiya ba'dah. First of all, I would like to thank for your invitation, and I'm very excited to be here. And if we are going to talk about Islamic education, I would like to talk about Islamic education. And basically in Islam, we have three terms for education.
Okay.
We have ta'lim, we have tarbiyah, we have ta'dib. So what is ta'lim? Ta'lim, it is sort of a root word from alima. Alima means to know, to learn about something. And also we have tarbiyah. Tarbiyah comes from the word rabba, yurabbi tarbiyah. Tarbiyah, someone who is murabbi, the adjective of the word tarbiyah is someone who has a good character, who has a good spiritual, someone who can be the good model. And then we have ta'dib. Ta'dib is, relating to someone who has a deep, good behavior, someone who is perfect in his character. So actually, if we are going to talk about the education in Islam, Al-Quran itself is, use these three terms.
Yes, in the Quran, you see
Yes.
these three concepts.
Yes.
I'll go in reverse
Ta'lim,
order.
yes.
The deep, noble character,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And we're talking about someone like a teacher, right? That the pupils or the students look up to. He has a deep, noble character, following the Sharia,
Yes.
the Sunnah
Yes.
of the Prophet, and that the students pursue the actual knowledge. In his case, English grammar,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then what was the third concept?
Ta'dib.
Talib.
Yes, and we have the good real model for Islamic education, who is the Prophet himself. And the Prophet used to say, "Adabani Rabbi fa'ahsana ta'dibi." Our Lord has taught me in the best way. It means that education is to gain the perfectness, and the Prophet is the perfect human being, and we should learn from him. We should follow him in order to be a good man in this life.
That's right,
Okay.
right. He is a supreme teacher and example for us all to follow.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, brother, excuse me, about, we're talking about this Islamic view from the Holy Quran itself, you know, that we should have to pursue knowledge and to be, not only to have the knowledge, but apply it in our lives, right? What can you say about this as a teacher? You know, you're in front of these, how many students do you have?
When I teach about my girl students, about what, 11? It's about 11, yeah, 11, and then about 15 boys.
Okay, that's a great size. We don't want to go more than that. Yeah, so that's a great size, and you know, you know, young people can actually, you know, they say that imitation is the ultimate compliment. You know, you have people who watch you and then imitate
yeah, they
you.
imitate what you do. Like if you say, "Be quiet," and you're yelling at them, you know, they want to yell too, right? If you say, "Okay, look, we need to be quiet now," then they listen a little more because you're being quiet. So yeah, they imitate a lot, and they're like sponges, you know. They soak up everything. They pay attention to details. Even if I'm writing fast and I make a little mistake, I leave out an I. They'll, you know, the sharp ones, Mister, you left out an I, you know. So they're just soaking everything up at a, you know, at a tremendous rate. That's why, like you said, this topic of creating material for them. You know, and then I say even to the people watching, to the graphic designers watching, to the English teachers watching, the writers, we need as Muslims to create, it seems like we got to do something, but, but as Muslims, we need to create more for our children.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have a phone call. We have a phone call from Saudi Arabia. This is Jamma. Assalamu alaikum. Jana. Jana. Thank you for calling in. What are your thoughts about this subject?
I would just like to make a comment in reference to teaching as a Islamic teacher. Being an Islamic teacher is really important to connect the morals and values of our deen with the story that they are covering. Say, for instance, if you have a story and you are teaching the children literature in the sense of, making a summary of what you read, the story, like the main topic, the plot, the conclusion. The conclusion goes back to the theme in which the author's message, what he or she is really trying to teach you or inform you at the end of the summary. And when the children learn to read a story, they should also be able to go ahead and retell this either verbally or in writing, you know. And there's like structured ways in which you do that, like putting the main topic, the plot, and the conclusion. And when I used to teach this in Saudi Arabia, and for the first time the children really were able to grasp the story because they anticipated looking for the main topic, anticipated looking for the different plots, and then also the conclusion. And I think this is very important, especially for the Muslim or Middle Eastern people, because they always have this idea that they're given questions and answers, and there's only one answer. There's only one question. When I first came here, they didn't have any opinion. And the reason why is because they're not taught to think. But if you give them a structured way on how to think and understand a story, and not require them to give them a question and an answer, but to require them to go ahead and give a summary in their own words, this is much better. And specifically, when I did teach here, I required at the end of the conclusion, always they had to write an Islamic message, either tying it or connecting it to a hadith or in the Quran or a sunnah. Because the mentality of the Middle Eastern people, whatever they read, this is God, this is it, you know, you memorize this and this is fine. You know? No, society is not like that. You always have to question things and you have to think. And this is a way of connecting our deen back to the children, to always be aware of whatever goes on in your life, or whatever you do read or hear on the TV or watch, always connected to an Islamic message. Okay? And,
great advice.
And you match the story to the hadith or the Quran, and this is one way of always keeping the deen in the mind. This is my content. Help all the teachers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much, Sister Jana in Saudi Arabia, giving us a very great piece of advice. You know, when we work with students, and I remember, I'll give an example. I've also taught before. There was a story that about South America and how the Spanish conquered South America. And the way they presented it was nice and fluffy, and no one had any problems. And I thought to myself, they're really doing these young people a disservice, right? So what she's saying is, at the end, even if you're dealing with material like this, you can connect it yourself, right? By giving them an assignment that's related to, you know, Islamic principles and things like this. It's a great idea.
You have to, as teachers, mashallah, a very potent piece that she put in. As a teacher, you have to compensate.
Right.
You compensate for what's ever lacking and steer them, as she said, every point an Islamic topic, you know. That's a good thing. In every lesson, say, okay, link it back in, you know, to our deen. Yeah, mashallah.
Yeah. And we, even as parents, if you're not in education, if you have children, you know, you're going through life with them. And you can say, you know, about this story we saw on the news. What do you think about this? How does this apply or not apply to our lives as Muslims? I want to ask you, Brother Lukman,
Yes.
we're talking about students and teachers. Prophet Muhammad was a master teacher.
Yes.
Peace be upon him.
Absolutely.
And so his Sahaba were his students.
Yes.
And they were learning many lessons from him. Can you talk a little bit about Prophet Muhammad as a teacher and his students, the Sahaba, his companions?
Okay, it's a very good question. If you look at the history of the Prophet in the time of the Battle of Badr, the Muslims were victorious in this battle, and the Muslims took for about 70 prisoners from shrikin, from unbelievers. And the Prophet said to them, you will be free. As compensation, you have to teach 10 Muslims. So the prisoner will be free as long as they want to teach 10 Muslims how to write and how to read. So if you look at this story, it's very important that the Prophet gave special attention to his companions. And also in the time of the Prophet, there were a group that we call Ashab Sufa. This sort of group, they were living in the Masjid of Nabawi, in the Mosque of Nabawi. They used to learn and to listen what the Prophet was going to teach them. So in the very beginning, the Prophet gave special attention for education from his companions. And also, if you look at the Quran, for instance, you know that when I would like to draw the story of the first revelation that came down to the Prophet Muhammad. When Archangel Gabriel came down to the Prophet Muhammad, and he said to the Prophet Muhammad, recite. And the Prophet replied, I could not recite. And finally, the Archangel Gabriel said to the Prophet, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read or recite in the name of your Lord who has created. If you look at this Quranic verse, you will find that the first thing that has been revealed to the Prophet Muhammad is the commandment to write. To read, I mean.
Read.
It's very important because Islam actually is the religion of knowledge, the knowledge. Since beginning, the Allah taught the Prophet about how to read. So it is very important that Islam is religion of knowledge. Islam gives special attention to the knowledge.
And I think this is very, this is the reason why before the gradual fall of the Muslim position of prominence in the world, in global affairs, in economics and learning, it started about 500 years ago. Before this, we saw all of this knowledge being generated by Muslims in the Muslim world, Arabs in all areas of disciplines, science and mathematics.
Yes. If you look at the Islamic golden era, we have many Muslim scientists and philosophers.
That's right.
Muslims have been landed in the Spain, in the city of Seville, in the city of Cordoba, in the city of Granada. Islam produced many Islamic thinkers and many Islamic philosophers. I would like to give you one of the example that Muslim scientists that we have. For instance, we have Ibn Sina. He was better known in the Western audience as Avicenna. Ibn Sina wrote many books in the philosophy. Ibn Sina wrote many books in the medicine, in many sciences, whether it is Islamic sciences or scholar sciences, as we call it today. Ibn Sina wrote the beautiful book in the medicine that is Al-Qanun fil Tib, canon in medicine. This book became the textbook in the Western countries until the 16th century. So if you look at the Islamic golden era of Muslim in the past, we have many Muslim sciences, we have many Muslim philosophers that are contributing to the development of the education and learning
major contributions by Muslims to even that have been borrowed or directly taken or given by the Western world. But unfortunately, you know, growing up in the West, we're not taught this reality, you know, this truth, this historical fact. And so this talks about the quality of education. This brings this to surface, the issue. I mean, when we say education, it's a very generic term. It can mean many things, right? So what we're talking about is quality. I mean, some countries, some nations, especially during the Cold War, kept the education under the authority of the defense ministry, which indicated the fact, I think the Soviet Union was such a country, which indicated the importance of keeping the people, the influence and the power that the educational system has on the consciousness, the mindset, the awareness of the people. And so we have the suppression of the history, the glorious history of Muslims, and so again, this brings to I just want to have you comment about the quality of education.
We need to have a revival, man. We need to revive this spirit of learning and teaching and writing and publishing Islamic materials for the people, for the masses. Because it's not only in children education, but even in adult education, you know. Culture is transmitted through education. And it transforms culture, and it preserves culture. And, you know, we have a culture, we have an Islamic culture that we want to preserve, you know. So as Muslims, inshallah, may Allah bless us to revive this Islamic spirit of researching, understanding, making our own materials, teaching our own children. Because if we don't teach them, somebody's going to teach them. They're going to be taught. They're going to learn. Now, the information is the lost property of the believer, right? Wherever we see it, we claim it, we take it, you know. But we don't take the culture. We don't have to take a destructive culture. We have a beautiful culture. So we get this information that is the right of the human being, you know, and we have our Islamic culture, and we combine these, and so we just, inshallah, may Allah bless us.
I'm sorry, they're pressuring me to. We've reached the end of the program.
So we will talk later over a cup of coffee about this.
They're harassing me in my ear. No, but we really appreciate both of you coming to help us open up this subject of education from the Islamic perspective. And we touched on some very important things, I believe, and we look forward to your the publication of your Islamic materials.
Well, I'm doing a little plug. Check out Happy Ummah. It's my first step. It's on YouTube now. It's a children's program. Halal, nasheeds, and everything's fun. And it's my first step in that direction. Of doing this.
All right. Well, thank you for being committed to this field, for being with us, and thank you, dear viewers, for joining us, brothers and sisters, and for all of you who called in. We will close out the program for today, inshallah. We'll be back with more news, information, and discussions tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.